how would you sleep, right? If you're somebody with a conscience, won't the guilt basically cripple you to death to just let this child go and do this irreversible changes to her body? So I know psychologists who are having to completely navigate this system very, very carefully. They either just deny seeing people like that who are gender confused or whatever, or sometimes they just stop practicing altogether. And on the other hand, you have these influencer type psychologists with pronouns and everything who say, come to me, I will give you free whatever letters or whatever. And there is a 13-year-old girl in Mumbai whose parents spoke with me. 13-year-old, probably just had her period. So the timing is very suspect, right? Because around this time is when she suddenly wants to socially transition. So the parents thought, I think the good thing to do would be to go and discuss this with a professional, with a psychologist who can understand what is the underlying issue behind it. The psychologist said, your daughter is now your son, give him a binder, and this is how he wants to live the rest of his life. If you don't support it, it's going to harm your child. You say something like this to a parent, it is going to basically shake the very foundation of their lives, right? It's your child, you want the best for your child. If a professional is going to say something like that, what do you do? If there is any pushback, they have very smartly found a way to circumvent that whole situation. They say, oh, he's not affirming you, try the suicide thing. Everybody is openly saying that they saw it online, that if you say you're suicidal, they have to give it to you. So I don't understand how anybody with, half a brain cell can't see the problem with this whole ideology.
Listening to Talk with Schevig.
Welcome to Norway, Vaishnavi Sundar.
Thank you so much for having me.
And welcome to Snakk med Silje, Talk with Silje. It's wonderful to have you here for the screening of your latest documentary, Behind the Looking Glass, which dives so powerfully into the untold stories of women navigating the impacts of gender transitions in their lives. As you bring this film to a new audience, what aspects of these women experiences, or the broader feminist conversations about sex-based rights and gender ideology, are occupying your mind the most right now?
I think with my film, I hope that two things are achieved. One is that there is a demographic of women that are affected by this ideology in this manner, where they are not transitioning themselves, but they are having a family member go through with this in such an intimate manner. They're watching it, they're observing it. I want the world to know that such a demographic exists, because everybody assumes that this is an ideology and people are allowed to have, in the privacy of their homes, anything they want to do. But through the film, I want to make it very clear that even in the privacy of homes, women are not safe. And I want people to take a moment to think about all these stunning and brave men that we are celebrating. I want people to take a moment to think about what is happening in their homes, what is happening to the wife, what is happening to the children. And number two is, if there are women who are in a similar situation, like the women that are speaking in my film, I would really like this film to be a way for them to feel a little less alone, where they know that there are other women going through something similar and that she's not crazy or hysterical or any of those things that women get thrown at all the time. She's none of that. She's just a human being going through this trauma. And I hope that my film would, bring about a slight change in the way public perception is about this issue, because it's not just about these men. There is a larger ramification that the society goes through, which is completely getting silenced. For very obvious reasons, because nobody wants to know about the women as it is. And in this context, even more so. So I hope that these two things are achieved with the film.
Yeah, because you call them trans widows. So they are married to men that transition into being a woman.
Mm.
And also you have a daughter of one of the men who transitions, Emma, who's talking about her experience as a daughter, suddenly having a mom, an an extra mom and how that has shaped her as a child. And when I watched the series, because it's 4 episodes.
Dysphoric is 4 episodes. This one's just Behind the Looking Glass is just one.
Oh yeah, it was the other Dysphoric that you also made. Yeah, that's true. So Behind the Looking Glass, I'm wondering, how was it for you personally to talk to these women?
First, a little comment about the phrase trans widows.
Yeah.
I didn't come up with it. The women had already been calling themselves this, and this word had somehow brought them all together from around the world, if they can understand English, of course. For me, it doesn't matter, because if all these men can self-identify as a mother and a lesbian, I think these women should be allowed to call themselves whatever it is they feel like it is bringing them together as a community. And trans widows is basically like a similar term as golf widow, soccer widow. It's not like something new that they have come up with, but they do get a lot of criticism for being for calling themselves trans widow because their husbands are not dead. But then their argument is, if calling the man, the husband, by their original name is dead naming, technically the man is dead. And what he is right now is something that the woman can't relate to, is not the person she married. So I think the word trans widow seems pretty apt. As for Emma, going through her experience as a child, I think her participation in the film is momentous, because we now are seeing a lot of young children also going through this, where they don't know what to do about this man who they thought was their father, is now forcing them to be a mother. And this has come to a point where a father who's trans identifying can not just change the documents and legal information about himself, but he can change the documents about his son or daughter and put himself down as the mother, go all the way back to the birth certificate. And I think it's just absolutely unfair. And the work that Emma is doing with the Children of Transition website, and she's lobbying with politicians, speaking to MPs and things like that, positioning themselves in the center of this debate as one of the important spokesperson, one of the person who should be looked into and not be, set aside. I think it's very important work, what Emma is doing. As for how I went about the whole process, I think I have not reeled out of the trauma I have from the film I made 10 years ago. It feels as though you sit with it, you live with it, it becomes a part of it. When making Dysphoric, I had similar experience. I have not reeled out of the trauma from making that. And with Behind the Looking Glass, it took me 3 years to make. It feels the same way, because whether you like it or not, whether it is mechanical or not, you're sitting and listening to abuse stories again and again. I edited my film too, so I hear it again and again during edit. And then I did a little bit of sound design, so I hear it again and again during that time. And it just becomes a part of you. I did not think originally that I would have enough women participating in this project, because first of all, I did not think there were enough women going through this experience. I thought everybody was just supportive. I thought nobody was critical about this. And then I was wrong. Of course, I was wrong. People were just afraid to talk about it, but they were very critical about this. And then one woman came forward, and then through her, 2 other women came forward. And it came to a point that I had to say to women that I'm sorry that I can't interview you because I already have enough women. Yeah. This is from around the world. And I spoke with nearly 50 women. Not all of them are in the film. And I think if I had continued to keep the channel open that they can speak with me, the number would have gone up. And I'm grateful for their time, because they completely trusted me. And I think for any filmmaker, that trust is the most valuable thing that you can get from your subject. And with these women, some of them have gone on to become friends as well, would constantly check on my well-being, seeing how I'm doing, because listening to trauma stories is not easy. So overall, it has been a very bittersweet kind of an experience. But regardless of how I'm feeling, regardless of what it has caused me, I'm very happy that a film like this exists, and I'm also very grateful that I could make it, because there is no such film about this subject at all. It is astonishing to me that nobody really thought for a second that there is this entire group of people who are being affected by this ideology, and nobody has paid attention to them. There is no media mention about the women. There is no, I mean, based on your observations in the film as well, some of the things that these women are saying is straight out domestic violence, domestic abuse. These men should be jailed. And yet their stories are completely irrelevant because everybody is so happy to champion this man who is wearing a skirt and, calling himself a mother and a lesbian these days. So I'm very glad that the film has been made. It's not just the film itself, but also what it means for these women. For them, it's like for the first time, somebody has heard their story and put it together in the form of a film. For them, it's like it's some sort of a support, a comfort, knowing that such a film exists about their stories. So it gives me like immense joy, regardless of how it has affected me personally. I'm just happy the film exists now. And also, I'm releasing all the individual stories as well. So apart from the film that is about 1.5 hours long, all the women that have spoken in the film, I'm thinking of releasing all their complete stories as well. So I've released 8 of them already because I think somebody might find a certain story more relatable than the others, and they might want to know what happened. Did she escape? Did she not escape? Maybe that part didn't come out in the film. Maybe she wants to know the whole story. Maybe she wants to write to her. So I decided that I will not waste any footage because I have it, and I don't want to put it behind any paywall or anything like that. So I just hope that I will squeeze dry this project to a point where I have everything outside for free for people to watch and share, regardless of, we will talk about, I mean, I keep telling myself that I will figure out how it affects me later on. Right now, there is a job at hand and that needs to be done.
So, what inspired you to create Behind the Looking Glass? And what personal or societal issues were you aiming to address through this film?
I think Behind the Looking Glass as a concept was not fully formed in my head until I was making my previous film, Dysphoric. Dysphoric is a 4-part documentary about young women who opt to transition from female to male. You can't really transition, but I'm just using the words for people to understand. So while I was doing that, there were a lot of these women who would talk about their partner, who talk about their child, or talk about their parents who are affected by this. So at the back of my mind, there was a thought that maybe there are more ways in which this ideology affects women. Maybe there is a wife. Maybe there is a daughter somewhere. So much after Dysphoric's release and screening it and talking about it and everything, one of the trans widows who is in the film, who unfortunately also had a child transition after her husband, wrote to me saying Dysphoric was very useful and that I should consider making a film about the wives. So I think the idea that I had during the making of Dysphoric and this email all put together, I was thinking maybe there is a potential. And I thought to myself, if there are enough women to tell the story, maybe then the story should be told because there are willing people and I have the skill to put it together. So I just decided on a whim that one day I'll post an advertisement of sorts where if you are affected in this way, please write to me. I slept, I woke up to a series of emails from women from around the world just wanting to share their story because nobody has asked them how they are feeling, how it has affected them, and things like that. And then I immediately thought the next morning that this film has to be made. It doesn't matter how long it takes. So the inspiration is basically the inspiration I have for any film. It's about women and it bothers me. And if I can turn it into a film and make it as a resource in some way, if it is helpful for women, I will just go ahead and do it. There is no big plan or anything like that. Usually the film just happens. Dysphoric happened. Behind the Looking Glass also feels that way. My next project also will probably be like that. I don't know. I don't know yet. But that, sometimes filmmakers have like this big story about why they made certain. I have nothing. It just happened. That's it.
Well, when I watched it, I felt a bit. I was a bit baffled in a way because I assumed that when you figure out or when you come out as a woman when you're a man. You don't want to be together with your wife anymore, because then you will go out, live your life as a woman, and maybe you are attracted to other males. Why would you continue to be together? Because I was expecting that, okay, you're a trans widow, so you grieve that your marriage aren't there anymore. And I was also a bit baffled by one of the doctors telling about all the sexualization, all the violence in the bedroom, and all of the things that these women had to, all of the abuse they had to manage with kids and everything, and they didn't get any help with their own trauma and their own things. It was only about the guy who now was a woman.
Yeah. In our society, doesn't matter which country, in our society, I think there is a certain status for a married man. So I think these men want to hide behind that status in order to walk with impunity for all the crimes that they're committing. Now, a married man with a child in any society comes with a certain status, right? Now, the wife is not allowed to talk about his trans identity to anybody. The wife is not allowed to talk to even her own parents about this. She's not allowed to seek any help from anybody. She's not allowed to go to a psychologist. She's not allowed to do anything about it. She just has to basically just instantly affirm him. And if he feels like she's not supporting him in this whole endeavor, he threatens her with custody of children. He threatens her that he will take away his her financial. She's probably dependent on him. She quit her job to take care of the kids. So they threaten to keep the wife in order to maintain that facade. Now, the reason why my film is called Behind the Looking Glass is also kind of similar. Because what men want is just this reflection that they see on the mirror, right? That's why you have the narcissist image who is just so taken aback by his visual in the mirror that he keeps staring at himself. But what happens behind the scenes is why I named my film that way. I was not baffled when these women told me that, the wives were being forced by these men to stay married to them because it gives them that status. And it is nice to be able to do all of these things on the side, away from the views of the society or scrutiny of the society. Because to the society, he's a married man, very respectable, he has a child, he goes to job. But what he does inside the home, and also when he travels to these gay bars and has all these serial affairs and things like that, probably brings home sexually transmitted diseases to his wife. Who knows? Those are all things that the society is not aware of. But if it is aware of, it brings down his status according to him. But behind this facade, he can get away with anything. Honestly, man can get away with anything in our society. But this gives him some sort of a social capital, a status. And also, it feels nice for him to keep this wife because he's emulating her in his attempt to become this woman. 99% of these men follow the wife and replicate the way she's walking, the way she's talking on the phone, the way she dresses. These men go ahead and get a wig that looks exactly like the wife's hair. I think one of the popular ones, I think a British actor or somebody, he named himself as his wife's name, middle name or something. So basically, these wives are like a tutorial for them. On the outside world, in this, the later at night, whatever it is that they're doing, for them to be this woman, they use their wife as a template. They follow her, they want to observe her. But if she leaves him and goes away, he loses that status, and he also loses his ability to study her and become a woman. So it does not baffle me at all. And the fact that the women are also sometimes forced to stay married, because in our film as well, one of the German speaker in the film, she hadn't left him. She's still with him. She knows that she can't leave him because several reasons. He's abusive. He's probably going to go after her. He's going after the children or something, and she's not having a job. And so many reasons are there. And as in the film, the psychologist explains as well that if you leave, that's when he gets the most abusive, the most violent. So several reasons why women stay back. Overall, my goal with the film was not to question them or even say to them that maybe you should leave, maybe you should stay, maybe you should, I held no position of judgment in the way I was conducting the interviews. I just wanted them to say their piece. So I was neither shocked when they said they immediately wanted to leave and the man threatened them. I was also not shocked when the wives said that they want to leave and the husband started crying and growling and begging the wives to stay back. So I think for several reasons they chose to stay. Some didn't even care. They left immediately. But also, if you think about it, it's not something like it happened yesterday and today they have to make a decision, right? They've probably been married for a while. They have children with this man. You can't just up and leave sometimes. You have to consider so many things. And in the end, these women love their husbands, right? At least they did. So it's not just possible for them to just get up and leave just because of this identity. They're always trying to navigate, always trying to figure out if there is another way. Can I live with this? They put themselves in so many different positions to see how his life will remain unchanged, but they can try and bend over backwards to see how they can retain this facade, because even they want that status in the society. Of course, in Europe, it's not the same, but if I have to take an example of, say, the Japanese woman, or in my own country, I couldn't interview anybody in my country, unfortunately, but a divorced woman does not have the same status in our society as a married woman. So there is all kinds of things that she...
Yeah, for those who don't know, you're from Chennai in India?
I'm from Chennai, south of India, yes.
Yeah.
Anybody going through situations similar to that, she will want to try and hide the fact with all her might than leave him and be divorced, and people asking her why did they leave and she having to tell them why. That would be the death of her. She can't work anymore. People will be asking all sorts of nosy questions. Family members would be, just up their business all the time. So to avoid all that, women just tend to grit their teeth and continue living in these abusive households. So there are so many vantage points from which women are coming into this, but none of them surprised me at all, because in the end, it is all the same patterns that men use for domestic violence with or without the trans identity.
Yeah, because that was also what I observed watching this film. And I'm a clinical psychologist myself. And what I saw was a lot of narcissism, as you talked about. But for me, well, there's might be other people who think that the male who transition to a female, they don't want in Norway we have a lot of men transitioning to women or transitioning, but they go out in the public as a female or presenting as a female, and they are gay. They don't want to be together with a wife. So for me, I wonder but all of the people in your documentary have something called Autogynephilia, which is that they are sexually aroused when they are presenting as a female. There might be a lot of those who transition into being a woman in public that might also feel that way, but that's not how it is presented, not even in the professional psychological or like psychiatric communities. So this seems like a whole different thing with these males. But I felt a bit, what you call it,
Surprised?
No, actually more ashamed of my own profession when one of the was it a psychiatrist or was it a psychologist? I don't remember, but he didn't support the woman in this. He probably personally would, but that we learn to not support the woman. Like, okay, you should keep this marriage so that he can't go off and abuse other women in different parts of the society. It's safer for the society that you don't leave him because then he will get dangerous. How can anyone say something like that? That was one of the surprises.
The film has many men who are autogynephilic, but then there are also some men who turned out that they were gay because they ended up having male partners who, of course, both of them call themselves lesbians later on. That's another stupid side thing. But it doesn't matter what they end up doing, whether they end up being with a woman or they end up being with a man. This whole ideology has been existing with no foundation whatsoever from the start. And the part that you are mentioning is about the psychologists forcing wives to keep the marriage intact. It dates all the way back to 1960s, probably even before that, because the archives that I could find dated only till the 1960s. And I thought, if I go down any further down this rabbit hole, it'll really mess up my head. So I stopped in the 1960s. But you have like random newspaper articles telling women to not let their husband go away somewhere because he will then turn into a danger to the society. You'd also not be surprised to know that psychology and psychiatry students are being taught this at university, that their first goal is to ensure that the marriage remains intact. Like the psychologists that are going to probably turn into marriage counselors at a later stage, at the university, they are being taught that no matter what, your first instinct must be to make sure that the marriage is not dissolving. That should be your primary goal, is what they are being taught. I would also be ashamed by that industry if I were working in this. But honestly, for the past decade, the way that I have seen this industry completely drown itself into this Kool-Aid, I'm now so beyond surprises. None of these things surprise me anymore. In fact, if anything, I'm thinking, what new thing are they going to say now? That's how completely unaffected by this I am now, because they can't do any worse than they have already done.
No, it's horrible. And how did you build trust with them to share so much personal stories?
I don't know. I think, I would say you should ask them, but we can't, because we can't ask them directly. I would say that I have a very clear process where my goal has been to make sure that they feel like they could tell me how much ever they want to, and they can choose not to tell me anything that they don't want to. So the entire deal between the speaker and me was, this is her time. She can share what she wants to share. And whatever she shares, anything, not even if it's just 1% of her total experience, I assured her that is going to help some woman somewhere. So I think I started with that note, that please don't feel like you're obligated to share everything with me. You don't have to, but please bear in mind that absolutely anything that you say, even if you choose to say just the tiniest of details, it is going to definitely help a woman. And I have a process where I speak with them. I don't just go straight away and record the interview. I set up Zoom calls and I get to know them. And then I write questions that are very tailor-made for them. And then I send them the questions, and they can prepare, they can take how much ever time they want, and they decide when they want to be interviewed. It's morning, night, it doesn't matter. I stay up, I do the work, because it's important for me that they're comfortable whenever it is. So because I do all of these things, and because I am just listening, I think it was just easy for the women to speak with me with trust. In fact, I have not posted the more grotesque details about the things that they have told me, because I know that there are some men who get off on even the trauma stories that they share. So I wanted to limit it to the more slightly bearable ones, because the women went ahead and shared absolutely everything with me, to the point I was like, maybe you should not tell me this. Maybe you might want to dial it down. I would think that. But the women were just like a broken, like a dam that was broken. Nobody had asked them these things. So they went ahead and shared everything with me. And I suppose having this kind of a relationship where you allow them that space, you give them their time, and you tell them that more than anybody else in the world, I am more interested in making sure their anonymity is maintained. Because sometimes, unbeknownst to them, they sometimes say certain words like the name of the city, for example. Even before they could try and tell me, I will make a note to make sure that that information is not there in the film. I have modified their audio even to make sure that with the voice, the man shouldn't follow them, find out that it is him. So, because I make all these provisions to make sure their anonymity is safeguarded, and that they can tell me anything that they wanted to, and maybe they understood that I am not doing this because I want money or fame or any of those things, because everybody knows there is no money in this movement. If you're going against this ideology, you don't have any money. But if you're speaking for the trans activists, of course, you have a lot of money. So because I'm taking this up in a way where it's going to cost me more than it is going to give me, the women probably also felt comfortable to share their story. And I suppose it's just this feeling that they have, I think, deep down, that you just look at somebody and you trust them, probably. And one interview happens, and maybe she then shares with other women saying that I had a very comfortable interview with her. Maybe you'd like to tell her story too. Word gets around. So then, like I said, at one point, I had to unfortunately ask women not to write to me because I can't take up any more interviews. So I feel really good about the fact that I was able to give them that space, just quietly listening, not judging, not making any comments, just listening. That's it. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, that's what you need when you're in a situation like that. Someone just listening, being supportive, and not judging, not trying to do anything, just someone that's there, because it must be so lonely living in a marriage like that.
Yeah.
Feeling so trapped with someone who's a totally different person than the one you married.
Yeah.
And so I'm so happy that you could talk to them and witness all of their trauma, but it must have been so traumatic for you without any professional background in talking to someone about that, because what a lot of us experience as psychologists is that we need to go in counseling to manage all of the other people's trauma that we have to carry on our shoulders. So I can imagine that has been a process for you personally as well.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I have been just having this one thought in my head that I think people who have undergone trauma of any kind know how to talk to another person with trauma. I think I feel that way because I have seen trauma of many kinds growing up, and I could only be that person who I wanted someone to be for me. Just quietly be there, don't have to even say anything comforting or anything. Just listen.
Yeah.
Without judging and without coming up with solutions. I don't need solutions. I will do it at my own time. But just listen to me and don't look at me like I'm some freak. Because these are my actual experiences. If you're going to not validate them, that's fine. But at least don't question them. Don't wonder if they are made up. Just listen. I think that was easy. Processing it later on was the hard part. When a woman is in front of me on Zoom, I'm just like a sponge, just listening, just absorbing everything she's telling me. Whatever happens to me later on, I don't think about it at that time. And I'm okay. I mean, I am okay. What can you do? Because these are important things. Somebody's got to do it. I just think of it like a task at hand that needs to be done. And I think about this way about all my films. It needs to be done. It's important. There is no time to sit and sulk about it. Just get on with it.
Can you share a bit about your upbringing in Chennai and how it shaped your feminist consciousness?
Sure, I was born in a very patriarchal house, men having all the freedom, women having curfews, women being asked to cover themselves up so much because that might somehow make a man abuse you. Growing up, I had my granddad would cut up pieces of, as I mentioned in the film Dysphoric as well. He would cut up pieces of news articles where young women have been sexually abused. And he would periodically show me those clips to say that, this is how the world is. This is how you need to be careful. Not in a way that you are perfect. You just have to be mindful that the world is horrible. Not like that. If you're not careful enough, these men will do these things to you, is what he would tell me. He thought that putting that fear in my head is somehow going to make it easier for me to navigate into adulthood somehow. I don't know what he was thinking. But that's how I grew up. My father routinely, I mean every day, abused my mother. I would cry myself to sleep every night. But then, all these things aside, I do not make my films about women because of my experiences. I make them despite it. I just want to put that out there because it's so easy to tag somebody like that and say, oh, you have been traumatized, therefore you're making films about traumatized women. No, I have made fun films as well. It's not about that. It's just easier when you have been traumatized to understand trauma better. So for your audience, I want to say that, it's not like a stereotype. You have been traumatized, so you want to spend the rest of your life making films about other traumatized women. It's not like that. Trauma has made me understand this better. But I have been traumatized. I have been sexually abused by a family member and then later on by other men in the society because I live in India. Our reputation precedes everything, in terms of how male violence is so rampant. We have so many rapes per day. And if you're going down the ladder of economic position, class position, caste position, the chances of you getting raped goes higher and higher. There is not a single woman in my entire country who hasn't gone through sexual abuse of some kind, be it inside the house, outside the house. There is not a single woman. Not a single woman. I can say it with, absolute surety that there is not a single woman who has gone through her life where she hasn't been sexually abused by somebody, somewhere. That being the case, navigating into adulthood, looking like me, I was a perfect candidate to transition myself. I know I have liked women from the very young age. I've never really been able to call it what it is. Um, because I grew up in a very small town. I didn't have enough role models to look up to. I didn't know what I was feeling was called. And then I grew up into the same heteronormative society, forced to marry, ended up being an abusive one, came away from it after many years. And then still wondering what was wrong, whether there is something wrong with me. Maybe I did something that has caused me my life to be this way. Maybe I could never please my parents. Maybe I could never please my grandparents. Maybe I caused all these horrible things to happen to me. You go through these cycles, right, of self doubt and everything. And then at one point, I just decided that I'm not going to sit and sulk about it. And as I was doing it, very gradually, some sort of feminist consciousness was creeping into me through some help of social media and things like that. But then, unfortunately, I fell into a cesspool of liberal feminism. But for me at that time, coming from an extremely patriarchal house, seeing liberal feminism itself was such a huge sea change because there women were talking about women having agency, women being equal, and things like that. Of course, when I spent my time long enough in these groups and amongst these women, they were also justifying things that were very suitable for patriarchy to survive, like how they were saying sex work is empowering, pornography is empowering, pornography and prostitution gives women economic independence and things like that. And you should be able to do whatever it is that you want to do. BDSM is okay. If you want to be choked, that's okay. So slowly I started feeling disillusioned by this ideology, this liberal feminist activism. And I think it was my questioning of the influence of pornography and how they were completely belittling it, how they were completely trivializing that is somehow really cool and women should be able to watch porn, and there is now feminist porn and ethical porn and whatnot. That started pushing me down the route of radical feminism, where I started reading, say, Andrea Dworkin, for example, where she basically just completely busts this myth that, you know, that women somehow have agency in, being a prostitute, poor woman in a 6 by 6 room where there are 10 different men coming in every night. And that is supposed to be agency of some kind. And if she did have an option to do something else, would she still choose this? That would be the choice, right? Because doing prostitution is not a choice. When you are presented with something more safe, where you know that your children can be taken to school, where you know that you will not be penetrated by random men, you will not have to deal with their disgusting bodies every night, would you still choose this? That's the question. And then that pushed me down the path of reading more about what survivors of prostitution are talking about. I read Rachel Moran's book called Paid For, where she was talking about how she was a prostitute and how she has come away from it as a radical feminist now and is questioning this entire ideology. All of these things kind of slowly moved me, and I didn't even know radical feminism as a concept existed. I made a film called But What Was She Wearing? It's a documentary on workplace sexual harassment that women go through in India. It's still the only documentary in all of India about the subject. I was going to screen this in New York. There's a group that's supposed to screen it, and I was invited to speak in it and everything. And then gradually, as the days progressed, the screening date was nearing, and I just get an email saying they decided to cancel the screening because I had made some tweets about how I think men should not be in women's spaces. And I, of course, must have used some salty language. I called them, I don't know, men in skirts or something more, probably more abusive than that. But I made some tweets, and the organizer decided that I was so transphobic and a horrible person. The film was not even about trans, and that is my private social media. But they decided that they could do that. And that really angered me because I don't like bullies. Um, I saw all of that happen in India, and these are Indian women who should have otherwise screened the film, right? And that's when I found out about the word turf, about the concept of radical feminism, where radical means going back to the roots. It's not about extremism, but it is about going back to the roots. I just drowned myself in reading so much about this that I came out to be like this, I don't know, this ultra radical woman who is completely non-conforming to feminine stereotypes that I already was anyway. I just needed some sort of a surety that I was not losing my mind. And all these books and all these experiences of other women and all the radical feminists that I met online later on completely reinstated that thought in my mind that I'm not losing my mind. Those are the people that are losing. And incidentally, all the people that I laughed at for saying prostitution is empowering, porn is empowering, and all the people that are supporting trans ideology also. So that overlap was very, very unsurprising later on when I found out about this. So I moved away from that. And now my life is so black and white right now. I might have far fewer friends. I will probably have very few people who can have conversation with me without it turning political. But I'm so happy that this is where I am now. And this is the hill I will die on, because this feels like the kind of fight that I want to do. In liberal feminism, even though I was fighting against patriarchy, that seemed very superficial. This feels like an actual fight where you can actually do something to change things, where there is not a single form of sexual exploitation that you're saying okay to. Because if you did say okay to one thing and say okay to another, not okay to another, that's like saying a little bit of murder is okay, but don't do too much, right? You are either against it or you're for it. So I chose my side very clearly. One evening, it happened, boom, and that's it. I've never turned back. So coming from a family of horrible people who taught you things like if you dress this way, people will rape you, to where I am now. I think it's a long it's a long journey and it's a long path, but I would not change a single thing.
No, you've been through quite a process, it seems, and you look very empowered by it, and the way you're talking about it, it's actually quite what do you call it? Yeah, empowering in itself, inspiring even. And I'm also wondering, how do you describe the key difference between feminism in India and feminism in Norway, based on your perspective? Do you know a bit about the difference?
Yeah, I can definitely answer the question. Ultimately, one thing is very clear. Hating women is an actual real thing. The world loves to hate women. Women hate is an actual palpable thing. If it could turn into a person, it would turn it you can see like a monster walking around you. That's how bad it is. So it doesn't matter what part of the world you are from. There is some form of woman hating happening everywhere. Feminism in India, if it can be called that, it exists in factions. It exists in like different sections of society, because India is one, it's a massive country and we are divided by so many different things. We have so many languages, we have so many religions, we have the whole socio cultural hierarchical system called the caste system, where by virtue of being born in a certain family for the rest of your life, that will decide your fate, whether you're going to be privileged or whether you're going to be oppressed. All this being said, the woman in all these respective categories is only going to get further abuse, right? So, and if you're a lesbian in some rural part of India, where we still have family members engaging in corrective rapes, I can't even imagine what form of feminism could solve any of these things, because all these years of us fighting for, say, voting rights and property rights and right to work and right to have some sort of a legal recourse for domestic violence and things like that seems to pale in comparison to when we compare it with the extent of misogyny we have in India. It feels like sometimes you'd have to have some sort of a complete overhaul of the male members of Indian society. You have to just completely take them and do something to their brains in order to, have some sort of a space to even have conversations around this subject. Because to me, it is a lost cause. Earlier, before coming here, I was in the UK. I spoke at a conference about male public sexual terrorism. This isn't even in your house. Marital rape is not illegal in my country. So I'm not even talking about the situation inside somebody's house, but just public sexual terrorism. Men staring at you, gawking at you, saying lewd comments, masturbating in front of you, and engaging in bestiality, raping little dogs and cows and everything. That's what India is. I get a lot of criticism for being so brazen about this, for being so outright about this, but that's the truth. The only thing about me is I don't shy away from telling things for what they are. So that's why people have difficulty associating themselves with me, because they just can't deal with the truth sometimes. A little bit of denial is sometimes comforting, I suppose. I have absolutely no denial in saying that Indian men are the single most danger to Indian women. It's not anything else. It's not diseases. It's not anything. It's Indian male species that are going to cause the end of Indian female species. And I don't know what kind of feminism we need to do something about it. I suppose the difference one can draw with Norwegian society and Indian society is that somehow the women seem to have some say. You have achieved quite a lot of in terms of equality. You have achieved quite a lot in terms of women in positions of power, women in positions of power where you can actually bring about changes. We haven't arrived there yet, and also considerably, different in terms of the size of the country and the comfort of being able to speak a single language to unite all the women and everything like that. So I would say obviously you can't even start comparing Norwegian feminism and Indian feminism, but you are like leaps and miles ahead of us. But the kind of feminism that I'm envisioning for Indian women is something even radical than the radical feminism that we have right now. For that, I think it's going to take a long time because the propaganda is so strong that all the stakeholders of the society have been completely hijacked. I was just telling in the car to Tonya that we have everybody, the judges, the police, the media companies, and the who's who of the country that are supposed to shape public perception. Movies, everybody have completely taken this ideology,
This gender
the gen-
ideology
the
with
gender
the
ideology.
trans
Yep.
kids and
Yes,
yeah.
yes, the whole thing. And they have somehow managed to make this as the most important dire issue to attend to immediately. In 2010 is when we had like a domestic violence act that came out. Until then, it was all very mild. We didn't have like a proper recourse. We still don't. There are about 470,000 pending cases. I think this was in 22, 23 in Supreme Court of women subjected to domestic violence and have had no legal recourse yet. 470,000. Now, with the current gender ideology taking shape, these men claim to want to have recourse in the same 2010 Act, which we fought for years, for decades to achieve. Now they want to share in that. They want to share in all the political quotas that we have for affirmative action, that women have been oppressed for so long. How do you right a society that's wrong? By giving more provisions to people who are oppressed, right? There is not a single right that a man, whether he's trans identified or not, does not have in India already. But they still keep asking for more, and they only want those that are exclusively made for women. They say that it is transphobic not to give them that. So they want to fight in, say, elections, not in the general category, but in the female category. Now, a female category as a concept was started because a woman would look into the issues that women need. Something like a postnatal hospital in a village, for example, something that she would think that other women will use. What would a man do? A man actually contested and won, and he laid roads, or at least he said in his manifesto that he will lay roads. If it had gone to a woman, maybe she would have done something different. Of course, it's another story that sometimes the husband or the father ends up doing all the decision making for the woman also. But even then, there is a chance that something good could have happened. Now they're taking it all away. They want provisions for, how sometimes when your husband dies in duty and the wife gets a job in terms of compassionate basis, they want a share on that. They want a share on everything that is, every provision that is made exclusively female. They want a piece of that. So it is going to be a very long, hard battle, because as we are trying to make headway, trying to explain to people that this ideology is wrong, all the other important people are changing public perception that this is something very important and you need to be kind and you need to help them out. So I don't know. I'm a realist. I like to be pragmatic about things. So it's going to be a very long fight. But I hope that the strides that you have in your countries, where say that if you have won some cases, for example, and if others can take note of that and consider that as a legal precedent in our countries, that might be useful, because you have some restrictions on what kids can do in terms of puberty blockers and things like that. So we kind of use that to say that, these countries have completely prohibited children from going through puberty blockers and things like that. So those things are useful. So I suppose you have gone, even though it affects us both, and woman hating is real in both our countries, I suppose you're on an advantage where you have achieved a few strides and you're ahead, which we hope to sort of harness from, to use that wins and apply that in our country, hopefully.
If you enjoyed this podcast and would like to support my work, you can make a donation. Check the episode description for details. I'm also excited to share that I'll be producing more English-speaking episodes with inspiring guests in the future. Now, back to the conversation. Given Norway's significant progress in gender equality. Do you think Norwegian feminists should focus more on supporting feminist movements in countries like India, where the fight for women's rights are facing greater challenges?
I keep talking about India, but for me, feminism is not restricted to India. I keep thinking about women all over the world. I think about women in Afghanistan, think about women in Iran and things like that. So it is outside of any borders. I feel like feminism should be like that. Whether it's Norwegian feminists wanting to support women in, say, South Asian countries, for example, or, it doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. I think women overall around the world should help each other. If you're in a better position and if you know of another woman who is not in a better position and you can help her, you should just help her, regardless of what her nationality is, whether you can speak her language or something like that. I would also think that just because you have achieved equality also does not mean that everything is fine. Clearly, it's not fine here. So I think our time must be well spent on actual valuable things that we can do, which would actually give us realistic changes. So helping other countries, yes, definitely. Every woman everywhere should be able to do that if she has that privilege. But it shouldn't be like just because you have achieved a certain status, you have to do it. I think it should be like the fundamental philosophy, a way of life for women to help other women. That's how I see it. If I can help another woman today, I will do it. It doesn't matter to me who she is. That's how my feminism works.
Yeah, that's how it should work. But I feel like some of the liberal feminists here in Norway might not support women from other religious views, for example, in the way that I think you should. For example, if you're in an Islamic household, they look down on those who are trad wives or traditional wives, but most women in Norway that are traditional wives are not Christian mothers, but Muslim mothers. And I feel that we sometimes are so respectful of other cultures that are sometimes or have patriarchal cultures, or I don't know which word to use, but sometimes you can see that in some cultures, also in Norway, there are more domestic violence. You have more traditional gender roles, which might not be beneficial for the women in the families. And I think we should talk more about that when they have to cover up their faces in public. That's really not empowering for any woman.
I agree. I'd just like to give you an example. Back home, where there is this particular temple and a certain god within the Hindu religion where women are not allowed to go. And there was this huge protest and everything. I have been an atheist for forever. I don't believe in the concept of God. I don't want to believe in the concept of God. I think the belief in God kind of diminishes the activism that I intend to do. I don't want to fall into the trap of having the comfort of faith. I want to have belief only in myself, in trying to actually bring about change. That's how I look at the world. So this particular temple, right? Women are not allowed to go there. But I remember fighting for the right of a woman to go there, even though I'm an atheist, because I want, who are you to tell me where a woman can or cannot go? I will fight for the right for the woman to go into any temple, any church, any mosque, anywhere. She will go. Hopefully, she will understand that religion is all patriarchy and she will herself come away and become an atheist or something. But I will still fight for her right to be able to go to that temple. I feel that way about most of our feminism as well. Like, sometimes we fall short of criticizing something that happens inside our home. And we can be like these people who go to these conferences and give like speeches about how women should empower other women, blah, 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 but we don't even look at what is happening to our mother, whether we are criticizing our own father who's abusive towards our mother. It must be nice to go and give speeches in conferences. It must really be nice. But I'm not saying that that's not important. It is. But without clearing our conscience, our homes where we live, that includes our body and actually physically the home as well. But without doing all of that, we can't make comments about, other cultures, other communities and everything. I just think that freedom as a concept, for it to last longer and for it to remain permanent, it should affect the community entirely. It should come to all of us at the same time. Even if not at the same time, but it should eventually come to all of us. If it doesn't come to all of us, the concept of freedom will always be like this mirage that we keep chasing. Today, I will be free about something. Tomorrow, I might not be. But you might already be free about something. But to you, that freedom shouldn't be a luxury because somebody else is not free in that regard. So, women who are born and caught in families where they are forced to cover their faces and their head, they have difficulty eating even sometimes in public places. I just feel like they are also trapped in patriarchy. It is not fair to condemn those women, but it is our responsibility to make ourselves aware of how patriarchy works, how patriarchy forces women into all these situations without even them realizing it. I think and I hope that the future generation would look into it in a more critical manner, where they don't just simply blindly follow whatever it is that their mother was doing, that they also follow the same pattern and question it and ask difficult, challenging, have conversations about it. I think that's the only way we can break this generational, years and years of abuse. It is good to be critical of everybody, everything that is patriarchal. It should not be limited to just a community or a caste or a religion or anything like that. Every patriarchal concept must be criticized. Even if I'm making something wrong, I'm approaching something unfairly, I am very critical of myself. For example, I briefly mentioned how I was sexually abused as a child growing up in my family. There was a time when I felt so deeply hypocritical when I was making films and telling women that they should challenge their abuser, that they should question it, that they should confront their abuser and things like that. I felt like such a hypocrite. I wanted to do away with that feeling because nobody knew that I was grappling with this feeling, that I was grappling with this emotion. But to me, it was important. So I actually called out the abuser in my family in front of the whole family, because I just wanted to do that as an act of freeing myself from the hypocritical that weight. So I did that, and now I was able to actually tell another woman that it is so hard to do it, but you must do it, because as soon as you do it, it'll be freeing. You will feel such comfort knowing that you have confronted him, you have called him out in front of your whole family. If you're able to do it, you should do it. This is what I did. So because I did it, I was able to tell other women with a little bit more comfort that yes, it is hard. I know because I have done it, but you should do it too. So sometimes when we look inward, it helps our feminism more broadly.
So that's really in line with what you talked about earlier, that you start with yourself, you start with your own community, you start with wherever you are, and then you can spread the freedom to everywhere else, and to be inspiring to other people, to other women all around the world. Yeah. And I also want to talk to you about the series Dysphoric. That was the first I watched. You explore rapid onset gender dysphoria among girls. Why did you choose to make this film, and what do you hope it achieves?
So remember that screening that I was telling you about, the sexual harassment that got cancelled? I was until then oblivious that something like this was happening in India. I was completely oblivious. I did not know that Indians were going down this path, claiming, apart from, of course, the cultural phenomenon of hijras, that's a completely different story. I did not think young women were opting to be transitioned into men. So when that cancellation happened and where everybody was calling me transphobic, all this abuse on Twitter, calling me like Hitler's literal descendant, calling me a Nazi and everything, it was just so confusing because I thought, come on, you're Indian. None of this thing is happening here. And then I started digging. And then I was really wrong because by the time quite a lot of changes had just quietly happened even in the legal scope of things. A lot of provisions had already been made for these trans-identified men. You could self-identify. You still can self-identify and have all your legal documents with the marker change, sex marker change to female if you need it. But of course, I didn't want to dwell too much about why men are doing this, whether it is important, whether it's good, whether it's bad. I was always very keen on women. All my subjects are women. So then I thought, are there enough women who are going through this? And then I started researching on that subject. Clearly, there were. Not only were there enough women who are going through this, the underlying symptoms or as to why they were doing it is very similar from the global point of view as well. There will be some sexual abuse, there will be some autism involved, or there will be some sort of a maybe they are from a culture where being openly lesbian is not a possibility. So all these things were also the reasons that young girls were opting to transition into a man in India as well. I started researching that and I thought that this can't go unchecked. This has to be turned into something. So it was peak COVID time. Everybody was in lockdown. And I had the luxury of knowing that you're not leaving the house. So which means you have to come on Zoom because you can't make an excuse saying that you are here, you are there, right? So I wrote to a whole bunch of people. This was when I was a nobody. I still don't think I'm anybody, but I was a nobody in the whole debate, gender debate. But I was hopeful that somebody will get back to me. I was just skeptical that they must be wondering who is this woman from India writing me an email wanting to make a documentary about this subject. But I wrote to everybody. Positively, I had all good responses from everyone, and when one person did the interview, they then put me in touch with somebody else. So that way, my roster of speakers in the documentary became more and more. Similarly, with the women who self-identified as men and then decided to desist or detransition, the word went around in that community as well, and the women were coming forward and speaking with me. So I had 2 years of lockdown to put that whole project together. The subject was just so wide, and the topic was so vast that it was not possible for me to make it as just one film. That's why I had to split it into 4 easy watchable sections. If I hadn't been cancelled in that New York screening, I would have never gone down this path. So I keep joking how cancellation was the best thing that happened to me, because not only was I able to make this film and have a lot of people say that it was very rewarding to them. I'll come to that in just a second. But also the fact that it's now there on the internet forever. Anybody can watch it anytime. And when men will, as they always do, claim that they put an end to this gender ideology, they were the ones who were at the forefront fighting this ideology. When they turn around and ask where the feminists were, we can tell them through this film, through the books that many women have written. About the reactions that I got for Dysphoric, obviously films like this won't be selected for film festivals and things like that, because it is the exact opposite of the content that they want, right? They want all pro-trans, pro-everything, pro-sex work, pro-porn. All of those categories are what most popular film festivals are choosing. Now, if I were to submit my documentary, I will never know why they rejected it. But because they will not say it, because they will not say this is why I am rejecting it. And if you ask them for a reason, they will just say we had too many applications, we couldn't include yours. They'll be very diplomatic about it. But I know that this is the reason they are. So I know film festival was out of option for me. So I immediately made the film available for free. My biggest reward after having made this film was the number of emails I got from mothers and young girls who said that the film helped them. One, for parents, how to deal with their children when they're going through this. And two, from the young women themselves who said they were at the brink of going down this path and that the film helped them to reconsider their decision. I thought no film festival, no award nothing can beat a real life change, something like this. So that made me immensely happy. And then that's when I decided there is like an actual lack of films or resources on this subject. That's when I decided that making Dysphoric was not a terrible idea. Locking yourself inside a room during COVID lockdown, being so miserable, lot of deaths around you and everything. It felt like it was worth it. And when I keep getting these emails from mothers who are still so kind to me online and things, they keep saying, if not for Dysphoric, I don't know what I would have done, and all of that. Those things are very like comforting to me. So even though it happened in circumstances that were very difficult, I think the reward is in the fact that it could bring about like an actual change. Can you imagine a girl deciding to put testosterone in her body or getting a double mastectomy and then deciding, no, I'd rather not do it? Can you imagine what her life would have been if she had actually done the double mastectomy, when she's going to sit with that regret? And this film helped her to not do it. I keep thinking about the giant effect the film could potentially have on these people, and the importance of having a resource like this. It just totally blew my mind. So, I don't know if I can consider that as anything, but it always feels like reassuring when these emails come to you to continue doing whatever it is I'm doing. So I hope that answers your question about Dysphoric.
Absolutely. I think it's really important that we talk about this in the way we do, so that everyone can think twice before doing something like that, because you have a lot of talk about it on the opposite direction, that you actually tell young girls that if you are wondering if you might be a boy, then you probably are. And a lot of influencers trying to tell young girls that, yeah, are you sure you're not a boy? Or you can choose for yourself and no one regrets it, and all of that. And as a psychologist, I know that when you are a girl that are hitting puberty, then you are really easy to manipulate. You are so
vulnerable to all these things.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about this ideology and how it has succeeded and has become so popular is because to a young woman who has her entire life ahead of her, whether in Norway, whether in any other country, she knows that it is not going to be 100% easy. There is going to be some struggle or the other. But what this ideology is, so there is going to be struggle, but with feminism, and if we all work together, we can eventually destroy patriarchy. We don't know how, we don't know when, but eventually we can do it. There is no time limit. But gender ideology provides you with a solution right now. Like right now, you need not be a girl. So you need not deal with patriarchy, which is a lie. She continues to deal with patriarchy. So that comes as a easy option. So, and they sort of package it with so many advantages, like being a man. Can you imagine being a man? You are always a man. You love being a man. You always had short hair, so it must be that you are a man. Those things are made to confuse you, as if those things somehow make you a man, and if you had long hair, you're a girl. All of those stereotypes. And they give you a solution to change your entire life just like that immediately. I think that is the biggest success of this ideology, because fighting patriarchy is going to take time. Our grandparents fought it, our mothers fought it, we are fighting it. 4 other generations down the line are going to fight it. There is no end line to when this fight against patriarchy is going to, we don't know how long it's going to go on. But with gender ideology, I can just change my sex, just like that. Then I don't have to deal with it. Then I don't have to worry about whether a man is going to tease me in the bus, whether somebody is going to rape me, or, it's the illusion that they get. That is why this ideology has been very, very widely successful. And young girls who are at the brink of puberty are so impressionable, are going to hate their bodies because all these changes are happening in their bodies. It's so yuck. It's just so much attention from people you don't want. All these people are suddenly looking at you. Of course, everybody hates it. It's not pleasant. You get cramps. There's weird things coming from between your legs. What is this? Why do men don't get it? Why is their life carrying on as usual? I want that. I mean, when I was a kid, I wanted that. I was forced to come back home. I had my granddad say that you would be raped if you don't go back home soon enough and things. But meanwhile, my brother would just come, playing cricket or whatever. He'll be given, milk and stuff. Like, it is life as usual. Not a day goes by where I'm not thinking, why can't I have that? Why are you giving him so many provisions? That is what the success of this ideology. They'll be like, you see that? You can have that. Like right now. What you have to do is just go chop off your breasts and apply these medication for the rest of your life. That's it. You lose your hair, you lose your voice, you'll never get pregnant, you don't even know what your sexuality is, but it doesn't matter because we are just going to turn you into a guy anyway. And we'll give you this penis that will never work, which you have to live with infections for the rest of your life. But you can change this right now. What they downplay is all the bad things that happen with this ideology. What they make it seem like a big thing is all these things that you hate. You don't have to hate it anymore because you can change that. It's like a cult. It's like how they manipulate you in your brain. And if you're going through puberty and if you're feeling vulnerable at that time, any girl will want that, no? Any girl will not want to deal with this thing.
Yeah.
Wearing a pad, wearing a tampon. Oh God, it's horrible. And imagine having to live with that for like what? Another 40, 50 years until you stop getting periods. And then after that, there is menopause. Like being a woman in this world is hard. And this ideology comes in and says, well, you don't have to worry about any of those things anymore. Here's the solution. That's why it's such a big success. And that's why it's even harder. It's even more important for feminists to put an end to this ideology even faster, because many more women are turning to this. And it's dangerous. And it's our responsibility to tell them that all these things that they're making seem like a positive, it's not actually positive. It's going to have, for the rest of your life, you're going to suffer. It's our responsibility. I think that's why these films are important. And that's why I feel like no matter what the implications it has on me, I feel like it's important to say it. The only challenge now is to make sure the people are watching it. That's the only challenge, because mainstream media won't cover us. I mean, you have been so kind to have me on and to talk about this. People don't. When you say you're making a film on this subject, they don't want to associate with you, because associating with somebody who is transphobic costs you social capital. They don't want to associate with me because tomorrow somebody else might not want to work with you, and that might give you money and you might lose that. So it's so many things that these people are having to think about. So the challenge is to reach as many people as possible, that I think conversations like this would help with. But I think the emergency, the urgency of the situation cannot be overstated.
No, I agree. Because the concept of regret is really, really complicated when it comes to taking away your puberty. Because all of your development is happening through puberty. Your sexual development, your identity development, your physical development, like everything. And also your cognitive development. So you never know how your life would have turned out if you had gone through puberty. So I talked actually with Erica Anderson about this. She was earlier ahead of US Path. Well, she is actually a he, but was talking about the gender transitioning of children and how it's not evidence-based, and that we are harming children probably, and that's actually someone who is trans and is also a psychologist talking about this. So even people like Anderson is talking against this. And what I'm so glad because of the Cass report also that has been reviewing how everything, how this gender affirming care, as they call it, giving puberty blockers, taking away both girls and boys their puberty. So I see a change now, but I think it's because of people like you who are challenging it.
And you.
And me. So that's the psychological or psychiatric facilities and the doctors are changing practice, at least here in Norway and in Scandinavia and in England and a lot of other countries. I think that's because we talk about this and we see how it doesn't make sense.
Mm.
Like you can only use normal cognitive abilities. Like I can only, as a psychologist, you can only use what you call developmental psychology to understand that this is crazy.
It is. And now your whole credibility as a psychologist or your license as a professional psychologist is at risk, because if you don't affirm them, they jeopardize your career. And one complaint from them seems to be doing so much wonders, because everybody who's a politician, who's a policy maker, anybody is listening to these men. Then all the times we have had complaints about other things that nobody paid attention to. But now suddenly, when these men make a complaint, everybody's losing jobs, everybody's losing contracts and projects, people are losing license. This is for some women, it feels as though it's a career suicide. So I know psychologists back home who are choosing not to do one-on-one anymore, are choosing to take up like group sessions and sort of diverting their attention to some other aspects of human mind than having to deal with one-on-one affirmative care and things like that, because they are afraid no matter what they do. And it is also difficult to live with yourself when you know that this child is clearly sexually abused and you're just saying, okay, you're a man. How would you sleep, right? If you're somebody with a conscience, won't the guilt basically cripple you to death to just let this child go and do this irreversible changes to her body? So I know psychologists who are having to completely navigate this system very, very carefully. They either just deny seeing people like that who are gender confused or whatever, or sometimes they just stop practicing altogether. And on the other hand, you have these influencer type psychologists with pronouns and everything who say, come to me, I will give you free whatever letters or whatever. And there is a 13-year-old girl in Mumbai whose parents spoke with me. 13-year-old, probably just had her period. So the timing is very suspect, right? Because around this time is when she suddenly wants to socially transition. So the parents thought, I think the good thing to do would be to go and discuss this with a professional, with a psychologist who can understand what is the underlying issue behind it. The psychologist said, give your son a binder. Your daughter is now your son. Give him a binder. And this is how he wants to live the rest of his life. If you don't support it, it's going to harm your child. You say something like this to a parent, it is going to like basically shake the very foundation of their lives, right? It's your child. You want the best for your child. If a professional is going to say something like that, what do you do? And if the kid is going to go online and read about all the suicidality and tells the parent that if you don't allow this, I'm going to kill myself, it is a horrible place to be in. That's why they have been very smart in making sure that if there is any pushback, they have very smartly found a way to circumvent that whole situation. They say, oh, he's not affirming you, try the suicide thing. Everybody is openly saying that they saw it online, that if you say you're suicidal, they have to give it to you. So I don't understand how anybody with, I don't know, half a brain cell can't see the problem with this whole ideology.
Yeah. The only thing I think we should do at least is to actually look at the data, looking at what would happen if you don't give them puberty blockers. They haven't even tried that. They haven't done the proper research. If they do the research and you figure out, okay, they are better off if they get puberty blockers, I would support it. But I'm only questioning, where's the data? Is it evidence-based? When it's not, then it's an experiment.
Yes.
And then you can't handle it as the practice that you what do you call it? The normal practice. So it's not even, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying you have to check what's best.
Like, actually, I'm saying you shouldn't do it.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. but I'm saying you shouldn't do it until you know that it's the right path.
Yeah.
And for most girls, I don't think it's the right path, because historically it has only been boys that want to do this. And
suddenly there's a surge.
Yeah.
Like all social contagion. This is also a social contagion, like the anorexic social contagion happened.
Yeah. We know that,
We know that. And there was a dancing plague. There was this laughing hysteria plague and all of those things. But somehow people don't seem to make the connections. And what is astonishing to me is while there is no report, while there is no data of what would happen if you don't give puberty blocker versus giving puberty blocker, there is actually research on the number of people that take puberty blocker go on to cross-sex hormones. So this is no longer a reversible thing. You're not stopping it there. There is a significant percentage of people that go on for cross-sex hormones, and then it won't stop there. Because like anorexia forums have taught us, you can never be thin enough. Even if you look like a skeleton, there will be somebody who you want to aspire to be like. This is all based on trauma. You don't just indulge somebody who's anorexic saying, okay, I'm going to grow so thin that I can measure my biceps with like a tiny little space, like the shape of a ring. Keep this here. The day I can hold it together is when I have achieved my goal. So you starve yourself, you throw up, you don't eat. Is that something any sensible person would encourage? Why is it then that this ideology is somehow so omnipresent? Everybody seems to just immediately just allow people to do it, though there are reports that, it's not reversible. And the drug itself is otherwise given to chemically castrate sex offenders.
I know. It's crazy.
How can you give that to a child? A child who hasn't even gone past Tanner stage 2, where you are actually developing secondary sex organs. You don't know whether you're straight or if you're a lesbian. You haven't even been with somebody. Already it's decided that you're going to go down this path. And you're not allowed to have tattoos until you're 18.
Yeah, and you're not allowed to actually, in Norway, you're not allowed to, to make sure that you can't have children until you're 25. So you're not allowed to sterilize yourself until you're 25, because before you're 25, you're not grown enough to know if that's the right path for you. But now we give puberty blockers to someone before they hit puberty, or in the beginning of their puberty at least. So I agree. I actually think this is our time's lobotomy.
Yeah.
Because you had doctors saying that this is a revolutionary, good method. It was consensus in the communities that gave away those treatments. And I think it might also be some of the same mechanisms when it comes to regret. That when you have gone this path, you don't know how things would have turned out if you hadn't. And all of those around you who supported you, they don't know either. And they have to live with themselves also, so it's easy to say this was probably for the best because the family members of those who had a lobotomy, they were actually supporting the practice, supporting the procedure, and were happy about it. Like, this was probably what's best.
Yeah, and the doctors had shocked them out of their consciousness, and they can actually say, look, he's not gay anymore. Because they shocked themselves so out of consciousness that, you lobotomize the person to a point where the person doesn't have any will to live. And therefore, they consider that to be proof that, see, I can cure homosexuality this way.
Yeah.
They're doing very much similar thing. It's like a experiment that you conduct during wars or something. That's the kind of thing this is. A sort of grotesque and horrible thing, but it just gets away with having all these cute names like puberty blockers. What is it that you're actually doing? You state it like that. You know how on labels you need to display what the ingredients of the contents of the food item is. Similarly, when they say that this is a medical procedure, they should actually say chemical castration rather than say cutely puberty blockers and lie that it is reversible. Can you imagine how many people must sue all these people for saying that it is reversible? It is not. You get immediately so many problems with fertility, with growth,
Bone density,
organ development, brain development. Who is going to answer to all these young kids who went down this path thinking that it is actually very cutely reversible? Because it's just a blocker. It's not a big deal. I don't know. There needs to be way more legal challenges for this to turn around. I don't know. Maybe even that they will be prepared to turn around. I don't know. There was a man in my country, claimed to be a woman, got himself all these surgeries and things. But I don't know, it was botched up in some way and the wound didn't heal properly. It got infected and he was basically stinking down there. And to a point where he simply couldn't live with himself and he killed himself. Instead of looking at whether such an invasive procedure is necessary, whether he could have been just gay in our society, whether even if he had all these thoughts, is such extreme measures needed? Instead of thinking about any of those things, Indian media everywhere, all over the country, they talked about how we need more state-of-the-art procedures to make sure that the surgeries are done without any such bad smells and other things, rather than look at the very core of why this is even needed in the first place. That is how stupid everybody is in the media, where they just basically, like a copycat thing. Somebody somewhere would have said something and everybody basically just parrots the same thing. So we need something very, very, very drastic, very radical to turn this thing on its face and, stop people from just following it like blind, gullible idiots without the ability to use their own brain cells to see for what it is.
Yeah, we have to think more, but like in the Norwegian society, we are really what do you call it? A confirm society where we prefer to agree on things. It's not easy for us to be the one person who says, "Stop, wait, are we sure this is right? Should we do something different?" So I think it's hard for a lot of people to actually look it up, check if there is evidence that don't support this hypothesis, that this is safe and effective and best for everyone, and to just trust the doctors. I was really naive for only like maybe, I don't know, around COVID. I started to look things up a bit more to check. And after that, I've been changing a lot of, my opinions about different things in our society, and tried to speak up a bit more about things, and that's why I started this podcast, so we can talk about things, so that people can make up their own minds about it. So, yeah. But back to you. Through Lime Soda Films, you created a platform for female filmmakers. How does it work in practice, and what has it meant to you personally?
So Lime Soda Films came about when I was making my second project. I think I just needed to give my production company some name. And the entire day was spent sort of agonizing over what to call my company, because everybody comes up with like these cool names. And you name your company one thing and then you have to stick with it. So I wanted to be like really cool. I was thinking of like Greek names, Spanish names, like wanting to sound like so unique and different and everything like that. And then we spent the entire day thinking about everything. Everything I looked, lights, camera productions, table productions. Everything I looked at, I was thinking, could this be a company? Could this be? And I had to order dinner because I was in the post-production studio editing my project, and I had ordered a lime soda. And lime soda made so much sense because I love it. It's cool. It's trendy. And then I immediately checked that there was a domain available. I immediately bought it without really thinking too much. So that's how the film company was born. Because I was making films and I was always sort of endeavoring to work with other women, be it as a subject matter of my film or with the crew itself. I have tried to basically expand how many women I can work with. So, and I thought, would it be nice to have like some sort of a platform where other women can also find each other? So then I came up with this platform called Women Making Films, WMF, where I just proposed the idea. This was much before Me Too. This was much before Hollywood had its whole women centric projects and things like that. So then I came up with this idea, and then I told all my friends about it. They posted their work and they uploaded their information, and I made it available publicly for free. Anybody can sign up for free. And then I started doing a lot of film screenings of films made exclusively by women all over the world. I didn't travel anywhere. I was just sitting in my living room doing all of these things. I just tried to find other collaborators who were interested in something like this. And I started creating this phenomenon of people making an effort to go and watch a film made by a woman, knowing that they're going to watch a film made by a woman. I wanted it to become more like a norm, where sometimes a hit film comes out and it's often always made by a male director, right? But then I wanted to change that attitude where you make an effort to go and watch a film made by a woman, because sometimes it's probably really amazing and you just didn't know about it. But I'm giving you this opportunity to go watch it, knowing that it's made by a woman, and you making an effort to not just go watch any film, but a film made by a woman. So I created this idea, and apart from doing screenings and everything, I post a lot of criticism of the industry, where they have gone wrong, what they could do right, and things like that. Hopefully, after my current responsibilities get over, I will kickstart the screenings again. Unfortunately, because I went down the thing about gender ideology, right? I started critically, publicly condemning this. A lot of people who used to be quite close friends with me have stopped working with me, don't want to have anything to do with me. So it's going to be interesting to see how, if I kickstart this project again, how many of them would continue to want to collaborate with me and things like that. But it's basically an effort to make women not feel lonely, and also impress upon them that they should try and work with other women too, because we can only get visibility when we know we can help another woman to come along with us, right? So it's not enough that I get a big project as a director. It's my responsibility to make sure that I try and get a female cinematographer in my project, because I can do it, because I'm the director. And I can maybe get a female editor in the project because I can do it. So I think I want to create this culture of women thinking about getting other female technicians on priority. Of course, I can work with men. Nobody's saying anything about that. I have worked in exclusively all men crew myself in the past. But it is just a nice thing to do. to help another woman because she's good, because she's bloody brilliant, because if you were not the director, she might not have gotten that opportunity. So I wanted to just create that culture of getting other women to do it. Started as a small project, and it has now members from about 22 countries, all word of mouth. I want to do so much more with it. So hopefully in the next, I don't know, many years to come, where I will continue being this advocate for women's rights, I want to also focus on trying and celebrating, the work that women have done. Not just focus on just all the horrible things. I want to also focus on the good things.
Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, that's good that we have someone like you that can make sure that women get the opportunities that they might not have had otherwise. But I think maybe we should try to end this conversation now. I think we've talked almost for 2 hours or something like that. But is there something you would like to say before we end this conversation?
I just want to say I'm so grateful that I could speak with you, tell you about all of these things. I would just urge your audience to try and take a moment to think about these things, become critical about things. Don't just completely follow some popular thing just because it's popular. Have your own thoughts about things, and maybe, like I do, try and champion other women. That is something that I tell everybody. Try and see if you can champion other women, and if you watch my film and you like it, maybe share it with somebody else who has not.
Yeah. I will make sure that we have links to both of your, like all of your movies.
Thank you.
So that is easy to find in the
in the description.
Also in the description, I'm on Substack and on Spotify, on YouTube, everywhere. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.